Hey everybody, welcome back. You got Eddie here. We promised you some new videos for Christmas, and this is your Christmas present. We have new videos coming up on our brand new YouTube channel just for you. More of the how-to series. And my component is going to deal with metadata and tracking of metadata relative to your song, your music, that sort of thing. You see metadata everywhere. Whether you're talking about images online, it has metadata buried underneath it to track who created it, where it was created, when it was created, that sort of thing, because copyrights for photos are also important. Text messages, your phone messages, everything that we do digitally potentially has metadata buried underneath it. But for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to stick to what's near and dear to our hearts, and that is protecting your copyrights, helping you with marketing, and increasing your revenue stream opportunities. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about is metadata for your track, for your music track. So this is going to be a two-part series. The first part today, we're going to talk about how to get metadata into your audio track, into your MP3. Part two, which is coming, we're going to deal with how to track when that music is being played out there and by whom and how often. That's important too. Again, to make sure that your copyright's protected and make sure that you're getting all the royalties that are owed to you, and it helps you with your marketing. You can figure out how to target other markets and that sort of thing, but that's for a different day. Today we're going to talk about specifically metadata for your song. Okay, so having said that, again, metadata is going to help you protect your copyrights, assist you in your marketing endeavors, and help you maximize your revenue stream opportunities. So keep those things in mind if you're brand new to music. Before you go any further, you need what's called a PRO. What's a PRO? Well, that is a performing rights organization. On our main website, handsofgrace-rayoflight.com, right up there at the top, there's 6 pictures. One of them is music education, and when you click on that, it opens up, and you'll see all the links to BMI, and ASCAP, SOCAN, Sound Exchange, all those folks. So you need to kind of explore those and figure out which one is the best fit for you, because it's not one size fits all. There will be advantages to some that are unique to you and others you may not like as much. So figure out which one that you think is the best fit for you. Ask around to other artists, and don't just pick BMI because they picked BMI, etc. And I'm not picking on BMI. It's a great company. Elvis's copyrights are under BMI. So certainly I like them, but I'm not going to endorse any of them here. Just ask around, find out who's using what PRO, and more than that, ask them why they chose it. If they say, well, I had a friend who chose it, okay. The worst reason to do anything is because that's the way it's always been done, or that's what everybody else is doing. You don't want to jump off a bridge because everybody else is jumping off a bridge. Make your own decisions, do a little research, and figure out which PRO works best for you. Okay, so we're going to talk more about building a revenue stream in just a minute. Make sure before you send out any more music beyond that, once you've picked your PRO, do not send out any more music to radio stations. I shouldn't say do not. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but certainly it's not a good idea to send out any more music to radio stations or playlists or anybody who's just offering it until you embed that with the proper information. First of all, you want to make sure, I'm going to get on my little soapbox here, you want to make sure that whomever you're sending that music to, that they are a licensed entity, that they are using software that is going to track your plays and report those to those PROs. That's really important. And if they're not licensed, then you're not benefiting yourself by getting that music out there and not getting any return on your investment in terms of exposure and tracking. So make sure that you do that. Okay, so the step in doing that is create a unique file for sharing. Call it your sharing file. Call it whatever you like. But if it's a Christmas song or whatever the song is, give it a title and part of the name, create a sharing file, and make sure that every time you share that song with any entity out there that you use that file, because all your metadata is embedded in there, and it's really important to do that. Okay, you're going to hear acronyms like IPI and CAE. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But once you get your PRO, you're going to get a 9-digit identification number. Sometimes those numbers are not 9 digits. And just like anything else out there in the computer world and coding, it may have a parameter. You'll see this from time to time in software. It says minimum 8 characters. Well, your particular account is not 8 characters long. The way that's filled in is you dump zeros in front of it. And computers tend to read zeros as no value. They're just placeholders. And so, see, there's a tip. Now you've learned something else. You can throw those zeros up there as placeholders. The computer's going to read it as no value, and you'll have achieved your goal. So what IPI is interested parties information. That tells folks who are looking at your metadata who the interested parties are, who owns the copyrights to this song. CAE is your composer, your author, and your publisher. That's also relevant information. We'll kind of come back to that. So let's kind of walk through it a little bit. So if you have a Mac, you want to find your digital file, find your audio file, your MP3, or your WAV, whatever you've got. Click on that and click Command 1. You're going to see your MP3 information pop up. Okay. For a PC, you do the same thing. You find your audio file. These are going to be MP3s pretty much. Unless you got an MP4, you're going to convert to an MP3. Whatever it is you're trying to do, get down to your audio file, your MP3. So on a PC, you're going to right-click it. It's a little more straightforward. Click on Details at the top, the little toolbar, and it's going to be very similar to a Mac in terms of what's going to open up. There's going to be a menu of information that's going to open up. The actual song title at the top, that's really important. I cannot tell you how many times we get music sent to us and it either has no metadata, which means we are not going to play that song because number one, it's unethical, and number two, it's illegal. It needs to have its metadata. And so we'll either send it back, or if we're feeling particularly generous and we have extra time, we'll try to research it for you and try to get your information. But more than likely, it's going to come back to you for you to fill in the data. We need that so that we can report our songs. We're a licensed station, so we're going to report our music to those performing rights organizations. And so you want to make sure that your information is in there. So in your list of details, you're going to have your song title. If you got a featured artist, you want to include that in there. You want to give them credit. If it's a cover, I'll say it's, I don't know, an Elvis tune, or it's a Mariah Carey tune. Well, then in brackets, you're going to put Mariah Carey cover. So that, again, anybody who wants to look into that song knows actually who it belongs to. You would think you would just know by hearing it, but that's not always the case, okay? So you want to include all the featured artists. Let's see, what else? You want to include whether or not it's part of an album. So you'd have your song title, your artist, which is going to be you, even if it's your song or whether you're covering it for another mainstream artist, that artist is going to be you. And then include whether or not it's part of an album. Now this is important for a few reasons, not only just sending things back to your PRO, but also tracking sales and radio stations. We use that because the software that we use, in order to follow guidelines that we have to follow federally regarding copyright law, you can only place a song, and a particular song or a particular artist or from a particular album X number of times and X number of hours. We won't get into all of that right here because I could spend an entire video just talking about that. But anyway, we use that information. So if you got that information in your metadata, that is really helpful because when we load the song up, it populates immediately into our software, and it really streamlines things quite a bit for us. It really helps us out. And we can usually figure out with an independent artist, they don't have any albums yet, it's just a single. That's not always the case. Our featured artists have albums. And so we're not going to guess at it. We're never going to guess at it. We want you to fill that information out. So the album part is important. When you get to composer, you need to include all of the names. Okay, everybody that was involved in composing that song. Again, your PRO information, your IPI information, your CAE information, splits. If you've decided on splits, go ahead and plug that information in there. It just helps people all along the way. Anybody involved in the music industry who wants to grab that song and take a look at it because they're looking at it for a particular reason, they can see all that information and know what they're dealing with. They're not going to call you to figure it out. They're too busy and they're just not going to do it, more than likely. Never say never. They might, but it's easier if you make their job a whole lot simpler. You also want to include your record label, your publisher. Those are interested parties, unless you own everything. If you own all the rights to it, then you can just use a term that we call one-stop, one-stop. That tells people this is a one-step process, that they own all of it, okay? The next category is music genre. This is something that's helpful. It's not mandatory. It is helpful though. But it can also, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It can get you plugged into a particular niche. And if someone's using filtering software to find a song for a particular application, it may skip over yours because you're in a niche they weren't looking for. And so there are benefits to having it, and there are benefits to leaving it blank. If I'm pushed to the wall on it, I would probably leave it blank because that opens up the opportunities for that song to be used pretty much anywhere. We're going to get to that here in just a second. Okay, so the comments section, which is probably one of the most important sections, I see that and we see that getting left blank all the time. And that's so crucial. So at the bottom in your comments section, it doesn't matter whether you're editing a file on a PC or a Mac, in that comments section you want to include things like your contact information. How do they reach you? Licensing information. Any licensing information that you want to share should also be in there. You know, most of you are driving your music really hard to try to get it in front of a radio audience, and that's kind of the norm. That's fine. But music gets used for so many other things. For commercials, it gets used by the film industry. Hint, hint. And, you know, when we're looking at a song for a particular application, it may not be for radio airplay, it might be for some other application. I can tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll right down to the bottom of the comments and take a look at all the details that they've plugged in there. It tells me a few things. It tells me, or anybody, any music manager or production manager who is going to look at those notes knows a few things. It has the information in terms of who to contact, what the licensing information is, probably what the mood is, whether it's melancholy or blues or whatever it's intended to be. All that information is in there. But it also speaks to your work ethic and your attention to detail. That is incredibly important if you're being considered for a project that is going to be in depth. Maybe it has a couple of songs in a soundtrack and they happen to really love your voice or love your arrangement or love your lyrics, and they want you to do something similar but a different feel or different content. That detail is important and time is critical. They need you to be on that quickly. And again, attention to detail is really important. So I hope that this helps you in terms of thinking about your metadata. Oh, a couple more things. There is an opportunity on both platforms, for Mac and PC, to include the lyrics if you want to. I'm seeing less and less of that because it loads slower and it's a lot more information to scroll through, and really, honestly, we all know how to find the lyrics if we want them. But what's really critical, and I'll tell you why in a second, what's critical that you plug in there is your artwork for that particular song. It saves the radio station time, it saves music managers time, and it's critical in terms of getting the right artwork with the right song. There's nothing worse than having a new song come out and having somebody attach the wrong artwork to it, either artwork that's irrelevant, you know, as far as the song is concerned, or it's artwork from an album 3 albums ago or 3 singles ago, now being applied to your brand new, sparkling, beautiful release. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So make sure that you're giving us the right artwork, or anybody. It's embedded in your metadata. Again, that way, it's really slick when we see artists send us a song to put on the radio and the metadata. It's always going to come from if it's coming from a record label, it's gonna have this stuff. Everything I've just mentioned to you, it's gonna be in there. It's not coming from a record label. But it's really slick when we get those files in and we populate them into our playlist and take a look at them, and lo and behold, everything's there, including the artist and the label and the album, and lo and behold, the artwork pops up. That's a professional job right there, and that's kind of what you're working toward. Now, we're not beating up on you because you didn't know all these things. That's why we're doing these videos, because we have some brand new artists that are up and coming, and nobody's walked you through any of this yet. So that's why we're doing these. And that's why I'm spoon feeding this, because this that I've just talked about is a lot of information just today. If you've never heard any of this before, it's new. For those of you who are pros at this, you can just click like and move on to the next video, because this is all second nature. But then again, even you may have forgotten little pieces of this, or you realize, hey, wait a minute, you know, he's right. I'm sending out these files and I am not putting all that information in there. I need to stop and do it right. And that's really important. You know, by the time your music gets licensed by your PRO, gets out there, if it doesn't have all this information embedded in that track, you're going to be missing potential other revenue streams that are not going to be open to you, because the information is not in your file. I'm not talking about their file on their computer on you as an artist. I'm talking about your digital file for your song. It's out there. And everybody is super, super, super busy, and so they just don't have the time to go research that information. It would have to be just a killer song that they just know, oh my God, this is perfect. I have to have this for this movie or for this particular project. In those instances, they'll probably research it and figure it out. But if you're one of 15 possibilities, maybe not. So you want to make sure you're at the head of the list. One of the ways you get there is make sure that your file has all your metadata. You notice I'm really driving this home because it's really, really important. Okay, so video 2, we're going to talk about how to track your music once it's out there. Okay, so we will catch you next time for part 2. We'll look at digital tracking across all platforms, whether, all the streaming platforms, all the radio stations, anywhere your music might be legally played. We'll teach you how to track that, and next time we'll include some screenshots because, well, it's kind of hard to visually I can't paint a picture for you like this and show you what the screen looks like, and so I'm going to have to embed those screenshots and walk you through it. But it's pretty simple. It's worth taking your time to learn how to do and do. You need to know how to do it. Don't leave this to other people. Don't leave any of this to other people. You are your own best manager. Yes, you're going to need a manager, but there's a lot of things that you can follow up on as well and make sure that your product is as good as it can be. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.